Well, I thought today we'd talk about power protection devices and surge protection. Pretty important topic, especially where I live in Central Florida, where we pride ourselves in being the lightning capital of the United States. Trust me, there's no pride in it. And you may hear thunder in the background. It's kind of typical of what we have in our summer afternoons. So many of these devices actually hang off the end of your shore power cord. But some are actually integrated into your coach. So you may have to see if you've got one inside. But over the course of the years, and those that know me, I generally have talked about this device. It's from Progressive Industries. Good company, good products, but this company has been sold to Power Products, a very large company that prides themselves in having some pretty good electronic gear that's really focused on the marine industry. This is the product that I've used for years, but they have come out with newer ones. So this is their newer one. Same kind of functions, newer form factor. I'll get into looking at both of these in depth later. But why I'm talking to you today is there's a new entry on the market. A company called Hughes Autoformers, the Power Watchdog. Now, so what, right? Power protection and surge protection. Nothing magic about that really. Although that there are always somebody that's trying to one-up the guys that have been at the top of the hill for a while. And this company, really they have a product that's kind of unique to them. And we're not going to talk about it today, but it's an autoformer. A transformer, if you will, that automatically steps up the voltage when you have voltage sags. That's a pretty nice product to have for many of our older campgrounds or those that we're at in the summertime that experience large demands on their power system. But why the Power Watchdog? What's so unique about this? Well, there's a few things that they've done that others haven't done. And one of them that's really important to me and those that live in Central Florida, or should be anybody else, is that this surge protector that's in this unit is modular, which means that when it fails, and they will if you're in a lightning prone area, the other products that were either made by Progressive Industries or the other company, TRC, that made a product that was marketed Surge Guard, although some of them were more than Surge Guards. What's unique about this one over those is this surge protection module can be replaced in the field. The others, I either hope they were under warranty and I could send them back, or they were to be discarded. They're kind of expensive boxes to do that, and not only are they expensive, kind of put you out of pocket. So anyway, we're gonna look at the inside of this here in a little bit. We're gonna go through the testing that it does. So we got that modular, I love it, Surge Guard module in there, but it does a couple of other things that are really unique and kind of importance. The number one fear we have, well, let's say number two. The number one fear we have in our coaches is that we've got a ground neutral issue that creates hot skin, if you will, touching the outside of the coach and putting your feet in some moist soil and you get a little ting. That's our number one concern. But our number two concern, and the one that could cost us the most money, first one obviously could cost us much more than money, but the one that can cost us money is the loss of a neutral line inside your coach. If you lose your neutral, the potential exists that all of your 110 volt devices in your coach can be powered at anything up to 240 volts. We won't get into how that works, but that's what can happen. That's why it's so important to have that neutral. That's, the integrity of neutral is sound. This product, and only this product, actually looks at the neutral facing the coach to determine whether or not it's good. That's a pretty critical function. I love it. And then the other thing that's, you might call it gee whiz, I don't know, but it's Bluetooth enabled. So from within your coach, you can actually look at your power, so you can see your voltage and your current, like all the other products do. Another unique feature to this, it actually has a tracking watt meter. So at the point that you plug it in and turn it on, or at any point since it's been turned on and you hit the reset, you've got an active counter that counts the kilowatts of use within your coach. That's a pretty nice feature. Do you really need it? Maybe not. But it is kind of nice to see how much of the power is being drawn by your coach. So if you're within the Bluetooth range, which is, you know, by spec about 100 feet, that's 100 feet of clear sky, not inside your coach. It'll work within your coach, and it'll work for some distance outside of it. I found it to work flawlessly. This is the Bluetooth 4.0 spec. I'm sure it's a chipset that they buy off the shelf just like anybody else does. So it's kind of a cool feature, but in the event that your Bluetooth stops and you can't, or doesn't work or whatever, you do have your error codes that show up down here, just like you do on the other ones. So the only thing that the Progressive Industries box does that this does not do is the Progressive Industries product will actually store the last fault as long as power wasn't totally lost. As soon as power is lost, that is reset. So some value, but minimal. Again, kind of like the features that are in this. Here in a minute, we're going to dive into this thing and see how it works. And I'll say that, you know, would I use it? Yeah, there's only one thing that I wasn't real hip on, and I'll actually have to look at the others to see what they did. But we'll talk a little bit later about the contactor that's in this. I would have put a slightly larger one in, but nonetheless, 2-year warranty, price competitive product, unique features that are of value to the customer, not features that are just there for marketing purposes. All right, let's move on and take this thing apart and see what it looks like inside. First thing I noticed when I took it apart, which requires you to remove just 8 screws and loosen up the end connectors, is that they did a really good job of putting a rubber seal around here to keep this weather tight. Obviously you don't stick it underwater, but it is out in the environment. And then if we also look in here, we'll see that we have a nice modular design, which certainly adds to cost and complexity, but it's really the right way to build these things. And of course this thing will get bounced around some, so we will also notice that they used a silicone or some kind of other adhesive to keep those items that they don't want to loosen up to not loosen up. Of course, the heart of every one of these devices is the contactor. Here there might be just a little bit of disappointment. Contactors are actually rated by 2 different ratings. It'll have a full load amp, which in this case is 40 amps and 50 amps resistance. So what that really means is that if every load in our coach was a resistive load, much like a light bulb, this would be perfect. But we have a lot of inductive loads. Those loads have higher startup currents when they first kick on, and that's why the lower rating for inductive loads. Now we shouldn't be terribly worried about that, because that rating really has to do with engagement. When this thing first kicks on, those inductive loads would have more current. Well, this thing is always on. So the contacts are actually always in place even when those inductive loads cycle, like your air conditioner and your refrigerator, anything that has a motor. Still, depending on the manufacturer of this contactor, this is kind of a cutoff point between fairly reasonably priced and expensive. That's not really the case with this manufacturer. They could have upped this to the next higher rating and it would have been fine. I personally, if I was building one, I would have put in the 50 amp inductive load unit. The other thing that makes this unit unique, which I kind of really like, is we see here these are MOVs, and what these are the heart of any surge suppressor. And all of these devices from all of the manufacturers have surge suppressors, but what's unique about this one is that this board comes out, undo the connectors, and you can replace this board. Why that's important, living in the lightning capital of the U.S., especially for me and those that visit, or anyone for that matter, is that these MOVs, they can take a certain amount of surge current and dissipate it, but beyond that, or repeatedly taking that, they burn out. That's by design and that's fine. But why should we have to send this entire box back or throw it away if it's after the warranty period for others when we can simply replace this box? So hats off to them for doing this. Again, it's about their modular design, which I really like. And the one other thing that I really like about this is the layout and the way that they mounted everything in here. I have taken others apart from other manufacturers, and when I took the cover off, this was filled with spray foam. Yeah, really, spray foam. And that was used to keep everything stable. Well, here again, you know, we've got our silicone or some kind of adhesive that's holding those pieces in place, and then to keep these boards that are just sitting in there from going anywhere, here we'll see that we got some foam that actually holds them in place. So again, really like the design. From a wiring gauge perspective, everything's great. They did something that was a little unusual, good or bad, I'm not really sure, but they actually soldered on little metal connectors on each one of these wires. So this contact point is not to the stranded wire, but it's through to this tab that has been soldered on. So that may actually provide for a better long-term connection. Not really sure on that. But hats off to them. I really like the interior design on this. Personally, I would have upped this to the next higher rating to be 100% assured that, you know, if I'm running at 50 amps, which many of us are sitting there close to that, especially in the summertime, and then having, you know, our air conditioners or whatnot cycle. Again, this rating is about this contactor having to hold that additional current while it's engaging, and that's not really the case here. It is engaged. So we'll move on to the next part of the look at this product. So far, so good. Okay, so what do I think about this product? Well, first off, it's got a feature that no one else has that I think is of extreme value to everyone, and that's the ability to look at the neutral inside the coach to make sure that its integrity is what it should be. That's a big plus. I really like the fact that it's modular designed and that the user can change the surge suppressor module. For us that live in Central Florida and other places where we're prone to lightning or bad power, those surge suppressors will go out. It's nice to be able to change that out yourself. I think it's kind of a gee whiz feature that I kind of like is the ability to actually measure the collective amount of power used by the coach. Nobody else does it. It's kind of a, you know, you don't have to have it, but I think it's kind of cool. Bluetooth, this worked flawlessly in my case. Again, you know, maybe a gee whiz feature. I kind of like it. I think the only thing I probably would change or have them look at changing is in the Bluetooth app, it polls this unit quite frequently. So they could probably reduce that polling time some. Nonetheless, I like the feature. What I didn't much care for, or where I think they can make some improvements, is I think that contactor should be upgraded to the next larger one. They should probably really look at that. This cool feature where the Watchdog lights up white or red, it's kind of a, you know, a gee whiz marketing thing, and I kind of like it. But I'll tell you one thing that I did notice at nighttime is that the white light at night is pretty bright, so it puts off quite a bit of light on the other side of the coach. All in all, good product, well worth the expense. You can contact me. I'm pretty sure there will be a discount associated with this unit. But even if you don't pick this unit, make sure that your coach's electrical system is protected not just for surge, but for irregular voltage conditions. High voltage, low voltage, open ground, open neutral, reverse polarity. Those things need to be checked before we plug in these coaches that have extremely complex and expensive electronic systems. Whether it's this one or others, use one. Frankly, I think this is a pretty good device aside from those couple of little things. Thanks for watching. We'll see what we're going to cover next time.